Multiculturalism is a wrong concept. It's a misnomer. Madame Merkel said that multikulti is finished, but what she meant by that? She meant by that when the movement of population into Europe was not as massive as it is now, and when there was a strict over global hierarchy of cultures, Europeans were convinced that their culture is the top of evolution, and all the rest of the humanity will sooner or later have to lift themselves to the level of Europe. Therefore, if you were a foreigner, the locals will expect that you will assimilate. That was the concept, assimilation. And that means abandoning your own identity which you brought with yourself, stop being different from others, and become exactly like the natives want you to be, just like them. That is the modern edition of anthropophagic strategy, according to Levi Strauss. You eat the difference, eat the difference. Thousands of years ago, probably, our remote ancestors ate strangers literally. They were cannibals, perhaps they were. We are no longer cannibals, but we eat culturally the foreigners. And however, with the collapse of the pyramids of cultures, we at the top and all the rest lower, inferior kind of cultures, you can't any longer expect assimilation. In Germany, where Madame Merkel presides, the greatest minority of strangers, of foreigners, so to speak, are Turks. Turks see no reason why they should stop being Turks. 100 years ago, it would be obvious that Turks are relatively primitive by comparison with Europeans, so they should adjust themselves, assimilate. No longer this is the case. Our planet, not only Europe, but all continents of our planet, change their morphology. We are not becoming combinations of superior culture already developed and elements underdeveloped of inferior cultures, which await to be assimilated into the higher culture. We have now morphology of what I called archipelago of diasporas. In London, for example, there are 70, allegedly 70, different ethnic, linguistic, religious diasporas. They live with each other, next to each other, in very close proximity. They send their children to the same schools. They work in the same enterprises, in the same factories or the same offices, but they keep their identities which they see no reason to abandon. Therefore, when you say multikulti is dead, what is probably meant is that it is here to stay. The multiplicity of ways of life is here to stay. It is not a temporary irritant, as our ancestors were convinced that it is. They saw that for the time being they are strangers, but in 10 years or 15 they will dissolve in the native population. Such a perspective is no longer on the card. The great challenge which stands in front of us in all continents is to learn the very difficult art of living permanently with difference. I think we are in a transition period. I call it interregnum. A situation when the old ways of dealing with problems, old ways of doing things, already do not work, but the new ones have not been yet invented. The problem of living with strangers was for thousands of years resolved with the help of anthropophamic strategies. They are no longer available. And if they are no longer available, we must create new strategy, but we haven't yet. Well, xenophobic thought, I think it is a passion, it is a frenzy, it is a craze, which is temporary. It doesn't necessarily relate to the same issue. Uh, when the situation is very, very complex, it is natural tendency among people to try to simplify it, to reduce the complexity to just one target. The question is not confrontation of religion in this case. The question is, as I repeat what I said before, adjustment to living permanently with difference. It doesn't matter what sort of difference. It could be religious difference, it could be linguistic difference, it could be way of life, style of life. But the problem is how to separate peaceful and beneficial living togetherness from the requirement of becoming identical with each other. Homogeneity. People were afraid, expected globalization to homogenize cultures. It is not happening. Globalization is as much unifying as it is dividing and creating new differences. We live at the moment in a very difficult time because it is a time of transition. The world 40, 50 years ago was very different than it is now, and we didn't have opportunity, we didn't have chance, we didn't have necessity to learn this art which is needed now. Hannah Arendt once praised Lessing. Lessing was one of the pioneers of German Enlightenment. She praised him not only for being one of the first, or perhaps even the first to say, look, don't have any illusions, differentiation of humanity will be eternal. There will be never, the merger, the blending of culture, the melting pot. It won't happen. The differences are here to stay. He was very, very pleased that differences are here to stay, because he was convinced that what makes us this very curious species, humans are a transgressive species who constantly go beyond the established boundary, which are intrinsically creative, which are not as they are, but are always becoming something else. Now, chances of being creative in such a way are growing with the differentiation of people, because there's more ability to learn from each other. People are different. That means that they may contribute something to my life. They may teach me something I don't know. It never occurred to me. And all sides involved in this multicultural relationship are benefiting from that. I suggested at some point these two names for the two different reactions which presence of strangers normally evokes. One is mixophilia. We enjoy variety. Everybody enjoys variety, and that's inborn tendency in every human being. The other reaction which is evoked by presence of strangers is mixophobia. I don't know how to read his behavior. I don't know what he will do next. I don't know what he means when he is making this expression on his face, or what will be his response to my gambit. That's the mystery to me. I feel underinformed, ignorant. And ignorance, if one feels one's ignorance or one's impotence, then one feels also fear. One is afraid. Children are naturally afraid of darkness, because in darkness you don't know what's happening, where from danger may come. Failing to communicate properly with a stranger is also a kind of darkness. You are living in a fog. You don't know what's there. Mixophilia and mixophobia are produced by the same factors at the same time. And they, of course, are in sort of dialectical conflict with each other. I am not prophet. I can't say which one of the two tendencies eventually will emerge victorious. There's no way of predicting it. But I believe that thinking about the issue, coming together, trying to come to some sort of inventive, ingenious solution may do quite a lot to mitigate these fears which are aroused by the presence of strangers. The attempt to make Europe a fortress, they are, there's a lot of noise was made about it by politicians because it is a slogan which brings votes to the party trying to win the election. It's popular among very many people because they really believe that they are troubled, that the rising of structural unemployment, it is because some strangers appeared in the neighborhood. Of course, it is not the reason, not the only reason anyway. The reason is that the new mobility of capital can easily, if it finds local workers, local labor, to stubborn production move to other countries where labor is cheaper and trade unions do not exist and they don't go on strike. So life is easier. Fortress, not fortress, it's debatable really because for some people, some kind of people, there's a new global elite. For them, they can easily ignore every border. For them, it is not a fortress. They are welcome to country to which they arrive, and the country is tremendously satisfied when they come in droves, as many of them as possible. And another category of people is stopped at the checking points, is stopped at the immigration office, immigration box, and either sent to refugee camp or turned back to where they came from, and so on. No one can think seriously about removing immigrants from England, for example. It's unthinkable. The English economy would collapse if that happened, because they perform enormous amount of inferior, sometimes dirty jobs, which local people are not willing to undertake. And we all the time return to the same point that we are on the crossroads. There are pressures in conflicting directions. We have to find some modus vivendi, and presumably we have to face the globally produced problems where they are, and they are at the global level. Therefore, the solutions to globally produced problems must be as global as the problems are. I know the fate of refugee very well because when I was leaving Poland, forced to leave Poland in 1968, yeah, but I was given only one scrap of paper, not a passport, only a scrap of paper on which the only statement was that I am not a Polish citizen, nothing else.